You're watching Cars.tv.
We are in Trans Am Alley.
I'm Dave Jolly. We're at Laguna Seca Raceway. About 32 years ago, I drove this car to a championship in IMSA.
My name is Joseph Brooke, and I'm the person who stumbled on this championship-winning car. I'm here at Laguna Seca Raceway for my first reunion, which is pretty exciting. Bringing this car out and showing it to the fans is super exciting.
We built this car back 32 years ago. I had a shop and a race team at that point, and Mazda was partially supporting our effort. We did about 17 races around the United States, including here. It was a great year, and we wound up winning the championship, beating the Hondas at that point in a very close race at the very end. And it's very exciting to be able to drive the same car 32 years later, because your memories are quite different. My recollection was that it was a pretty easy car to drive and it was very fast. We were very competitive that year. We had been racing for about 10 years previously, mostly for Mazda. So we were kind of on a roll. We were kind of at the peak of our abilities.
I was looking for a track day car. I found this car on Craigslist that was just a couple towns away from where I was. Went to see the car with $500 in my pocket. I looked at the car for about 10 minutes and I took out $500 and told the guy, don't sell it to anybody else. I'll be back Friday to pay for the rest of it. At that point, I wasn't aware of the history and the provenance of the car. I just bought it because I was like, this is really a well-built car.
Yeah, one of the things that's different nowadays is I'm so used to driving cars with power steering, and this doesn't have power steering. It's got a lot of horsepower. It's front-wheel drive also, so my initial experience in getting in it was, boy, this is really a handful. I'm surprised it did so well back in '89.
Well, it's an interesting story. I tracked down Dave and brought the car, and it was in really rough shape. As I say, it had been SCCA'd. I told Dave my mission was to make it indistinguishable from 1989.
My crew chief and I were having breakfast, had a chance to look at it. We both sort of shook our heads and said, this is one really big project. I don't think this guy is going to make it. But 3 years later, he calls me up and says, I'm ready. You want to come drive the car? And it's a fabulous opportunity. So of course I said, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, it was a very big undertaking. The car required a lot of work. I had to buy a donor car for the car. A lot of parts are not available for Mazda anymore. But we just, worked through the car. Fortunately, the shop that I worked with has been through restorations of very significant cars in the past. It was a 4-year restoration. We matched the color beautifully. I mean, Vinny's Auto Body and Sonoma Raceway did a great job, and everybody knew what my vision was, and they were on board with it. And it's been super exciting to bring this car back. The biggest hurdle was my commitment to make it exactly as 1989. The turbo guy said, yeah, we can give you a ceramic coating. It'll give you 3% more thermal efficiency. I'm like, no, I don't want the car better than it was raced. I want it as it was raced. There were questions for Dave and Rod about, was this oil cooler that the guy I bought it from, was that part of the car? Because Dave gave me a nice archive, a really amazing archive. But there were some questions about how was it raced in the day? And of course, Dave's run 15 teams, so getting the car exactly right, that was the hardest thing.
It's kind of hard to remember back 32 years, but I recall the car being a really excellent car in terms of handling and being predictable. The tires are different than what we ran back there. That's one thing you can't quite copy. And the track here hadn't been used for years, so it's quite slick. So to an extent, you feel like you're sliding around a lot. I didn't quite remember that, but you adapt. It's really an experience. I came here first in 1978 for this event, And at that time, I had no conception at all that I might eventually wind up here as a participant, 40 years later. But it's wonderful to be here. It's great to be on the track. I think this is a great event. For us, this is almost kind of a reunion within a reunion, because we had a chance to bring in a lot of the crew that worked on this car, and it was great to see them tell old stories. It's interesting how stories diverge over time, but we had a great time getting together. So I want to thank Joseph for doing a great job bringing us all together.
Honestly, I would love to be in touch with Dave. It's a super short story. When Dave figured out I was really going to do something with the car, he gave me a lot of stuff. He gave me a championship winning trophy, his race suit, and then he needed a race suit. And he said, hey, can I borrow that race suit? I said, Dave, you can have the dang thing back if you want it. And he says, listen, you just keep it for when I need to borrow it again. So hopefully he'll get a chance to be acquainted with the car at another time. Thanks, Dave.